Okay, so in this example, I want to show you a number of different things as far as creating new presentations, how you go about doing it, and some of the things that we would do while creating our presentation. When you first start up the program, you're going to see something like this, and be brought to this particular screen here. Now, a number of different areas we can launch into. We can either create a brand new blank presentation just by going with this little template right here. We could open up an existing template or existing presentation that we have maybe created in the past. We can go here to open and do that. But given the fact that we're just kind of starting here, let's just go for the idea that we don't have anything that we've created yet. So what would we do? So like I said, you can either go with a blank presentation, or you can actually go with one of the templates. Now, if I just went ahead with the blank presentation, all I'd have to do is just kind of click onto here, be brought to this screen here, and it usually kind of defaults to giving you what is called the title slide, and that's what you see here. It'll be like the first slide of your presentation. It also comes up with this design ideas on the side there. You click on any one of these here, and that will be pretty much your theme, your graphic. For the most part, the first slide, and then the other slides that you bring in, depending on the layout, will have different graphics kind of related to that. And you're going to have fonts and colors and so forth. And from here, you're pretty much on your own. I'm going to go ahead and just kind of close this up, but you're on your own to put your first slide together. And then when you're ready to do a second slide, you can just go over here to where it says new slide. But we'll get into that a little bit later on. I just wanted to kind of just show you the different areas we can kind of dive into it from. All right, so that's one. Now, if I go back into File, and we go back to Home, that's pretty much where we came into, okay? Now, if we wanted to work with maybe one of the existing presentations, such as like a template, technically, this blank presentation was a template, all right? It just doesn't have much in it. But you got some of these other ones here. So what we can do, we can either go with one of these here, go with more themes, more presentations. So if I went with the more presentations, this would be your presentation templates. Click onto that, and then you can go ahead and open up different areas that you might have some of your presentations at. But I'm going to go back over here to New, and this will give me what we call the featured presentation templates. Now, if you kind of look at this, most of these are pretty much just more of a graphic style. So let's say, for instance, I were to say, well, I don't know, this one looks kind of interesting, the Berlin one here, right? So we click onto that. That gives you then some subs that we can go with. So we can either go with this orange look. You can go with more of the turquoise or blue. You have the green, you have the purple. And then over here where it says more images, you can actually click onto that, and it gives you an idea of what those types of slides might look like. All right, and we're going to be doing a number of those later on. So you might say, okay, fine, let's go with the orange one here. You hit create, and there you go. So again, you're given your first slide. It's just the title slide. You'd put your information into that and kind of work on to the next one. So the big difference between this and that blank one we did is that this one obviously has some color to it, a little bit more substantial looking font as well. But we're going to be getting more into this later on. Now I'm going to go ahead back in and click on the file again, click on a new, and so those would be pretty much, they're kind of void of content. They're just more or less ready for you to kind of start up and have this kind of a overall look. So if we went, let's say, with this main event one, all right, you click on that, and we can go with the different colors and so forth. So let's say we go with the I don't know, we'll go with the orange. Hit create, and there you go. So just a little bit different looking kind of stuff. Now, if you're looking to maybe create a presentation where it has already some content in it, or at least content that will prompt you to put your own content into, then you can look at these. So if we go back into File, go back to New, and over here, are the different template groups that you can get into. So we have infographics, we've got diagrams, and so forth. So if, let's say, for instance, we went with the business, all right, so I click onto that. And this all is coming from Microsoft's server, all right? So you have to be connected to the internet to see all this, but that looks pretty good. So you can kind of go through this and say, all right, here's a coffee shop business pitch. And I'm sitting there saying, well, I'm not doing a coffee shop pitch. I'm doing something that might be similar, maybe a donut shop or something like that. At least maybe I can use this to kind of launch from that. So click onto that. And you can get an idea of the different images that are in here. All right, and if that's something that you might like, then you just go ahead and hit create. And there we go. And here it gives you a number of different slides. So there's your second slide and your third slide. And this is stuff that you can go back in and change the numbers, change the text yourself, and say, well, this looks like something I can kind of maybe start with. You might end up putting a number of your own slides in between. You might take a number of these slides out, but at least it gives you an idea of maybe the path you should take in each of your slides. You might say, well, maybe I don't need something like this, or better yet, I don't need something like this, but maybe I need something like this. So you get rid of that one and maybe expand upon that, maybe have a couple slides that are kind of similar to that kind of information. So you got a lot of capability there with that. All right, we'll go back in again, do another file, hit new. All right, so that was the that one started with the business. Now, if I go to the presentations one here, hold another area here, and some of these were done by particular companies that submitted them to Microsoft, so they're geared towards their company. But again, you can still go back in there, open one up, and kind of modify it to fit maybe your particular business. All right, so, and there's quite a few of them in here. I mean, this list just goes and goes. Pretty wild. All right, they've got one in here I thought was kind of interesting. It's the architectural pitch deck here, but instead of it giving you prompting you with kind of information, more or less prompts you with graphics. But what's kind of interesting is that everything is all in Latin here. So, but it still kind of gives you an idea of, the problem, about us, a solution and things like that. So if some of this stuff would maybe kind of fit into what you're trying to present, you can, again, take this presentation and modify it. And I'm going to show you, throughout this course of videos how you can make changes, and adapt, these existing presentations to what you're doing. Now, this particular presentation, if you look at the bottom left here, has 23 slides. I mean, this thing just goes on and on. I mean, you click onto some of these and it's like, wow, pretty wild stuff. But again, this will give you, in some cases, a good start to what you want to do. So pretty cool. Now, if I go back into File again here and click on the New, instead of maybe going with their suggested searches, I can type my own thing in here. So let's just say I wanted to do maybe some sort of maybe a sales type presentation. What I could do is I could type in sales, like that, hit my enter key, and it searches and it finds a few things in here. So we've got our business sales presentation, we've got business direction, small business flyer, even just a single slide for that, sales training. So let's take a look at that one. So we'll click on that, and we'll go ahead and hit create. And there we go. So on here we've got the responsibilities, company overview, job responsibilities, company message, competitors, sales process, that type of thing. So kind of a general thing, but again, if it kind of comes close to what you're wanting to put together, you might end up using maybe 20% of it. The other 80% would be what you're coming up with, right? If I go back into File again, hit New, let's say I go up here and I type in something like marketing, all right? And enter that one in, and we've got this. And here's something for professional services. they call it a pitch deck. Deck is AKA for just a presentation. A lot of people like to say, yeah, I've got a deck on such and such, or I've got a deck that does this. But basically the deck is just kind of like a deck of cards or a deck of slides. Think of it that way, right? Anyway, so you can click onto that, hit create, and there we go. So we've got this, our big idea, industry outlook. Of course, this is all in Latin, but at least it gives you kind of a title to kind of start with and things like that. So really kind of cool stuff here, you know, at least it kind of gets you started, if anything. I like this one where we've got Alan Matson, the key employee. All right, anyway, so kind of just funny. Anyway, so let's look at now just maybe starting up a presentation. We'll pick a particular theme, some sort of a look, single slide, and kind of build it from there. And I just want to just in general show you how you add slides and manage the slides and so forth. So what we're going to do then is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to close up all of these. I'm just going to kind of close everything up here. And we're going to just start from scratch again. So I'm going to start up the program here. All right. And I come into here and I say, okay, I'm going to do a new presentation. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to start out with this Berlin. Okay. For some reason, that color just kind of intrigues me. So I'm going to click onto that. Here we go. And I'm going to go with the orange. Click on the create, and there we go. Now, we're going to be getting into more detail as far as filling in the slides with text and things like that. But I want to just, again, like I said before, just kind of do more of a general approach in this particular video, just kind of covering all the different ways of just kind of managing your slides, getting slides in there and managing them and so forth. So right now, usually when you pick one of these types of templates, which is AKA for themes, it gives you just a single slide, and it's usually just the title slide. Now, when you're ready to, let's say, create a second slide, what you do is you go here in the Home tab, and you have this thing here called New Slide, right? So you can actually click onto the bottom of this, all right? And this one gives you all of the different layouts. Now, layouts are very important because they are professionally designed. So if you're sitting there saying to yourself, well, I don't really know how to come up with something that is going to look professional, if you just kind of go along with what they give you here, you know, any of these items in here, and just go with the flow, your presentation will be just fine. It'll look very professional. And if you're, you know, beyond that and you're very creative, you can actually, you know, modify these as well. And we'll talk about that later on in other videos. But at this point, these would be the different kinds of slides that you would do now, or slide content. In this case, we've got the title and content on this one here. So this is probably one of your more popular ones, because when you click onto this one, okay, that'll be your second slide, as you can see right there. This allows you to put a title, and you can either do some sort of like a bulleted list, and you can change the bullets from just, you know, character type bullets to numeric bullets. We'll talk about that later on as well. But you can also then, instead of doing this, insert a table or a graph or a diagram, a number of different things, videos. You can do a lot of different things with this, but it gives you the ability to kind of launch in a number of different directions like that. So that's one type of slide there, right? Now, if I go back and I want to, let's say, do another slide, I want to do another one that has the same kind of a layout, then what I can do is, instead of clicking on the bottom and having to go over here and do that, whatever the last one was that you picked will come up if you pick the top portion of the button here. So if you click onto that, then that gives you another slide. It's the same as what we had before. So that was our first one. Here's the next one we did. Pretty nice. Now you can go back into a new slide again, and we've got the section header. Now this is a good item to use when you, let's say you're going to have, let's say your presentation is going to be 40, 50, 60 slides long. You probably want to have at some point kind of like a chapter beginning. So in other words, the first slide that we've got, let me just get back out of here. our first slide, that's our title slide. That's great. So maybe you have maybe 4, 5, 6 slides. And then some point you want to say, okay, that was kind of like my first chapter. Now, chapter 2, instead of having another title slide, you can have one of these like chapter type slides. So when you go back into here, we've got this like section header here. And what you can do is you can click onto that. And by the way, too, when you do that, whatever slides you happen to be on, it always puts that new slide right after. So it just ended up, I was already here, so I ended up putting it here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take it here and drag it down like this, okay, and let go, and there is my section. So kind of similar to this one here, right, but more for kind of breaking up chapter 2, chapter 3, chapter 4 type of thing, if you want to kind of section off your presentation. And that's not a bad idea, because I'm going to tell you, if you just keep on going and going and going and never seem to have like an end to anything, that gets people kind of tired and frustrated. So you might think about kind of breaking it up in these multiple sections and having maybe something like this to kind of be like the title slide of each of those sections. Okay, so let's look at another one here. So I'll go back to new slide again here. And they have two kind of comparison kind of slide layouts. One called the to content, one called the comparison. So this gives you a little bit of like a little text box here to put like pro and con, or yes or no, or good or bad, or something like that. Whereas this is just two different content. So if I clicked onto, let's say this one here, okay, that will allow you to put either, you know, two columns of, let's say, bullets, or like I said, you can maybe put a table over here, put a graph, you know, over on this side. Not too bad. Pretty easy to do there. And then if I go back in there again and I click on the new slide, and let's say I go with the comparison now, well, that'll put the comparison in there. So now here was the original one, here's the comparison one. See, so here you're able to put that title like I said. Now, if you sit there and say, well, I think I'd like to have that for this one here. So in other words, I just got done doing this one, whatever you filled in with whatever you had in there. And you're sitting there saying, I think I'd like to have a title like we have here on this one as well. Now, what's really cool about all this is that you could actually have already put maybe a table in this one, put a graph over in this one, or put your text in, whatever it happens to be, and that will be brought over when you bring in the other layout. So in other words, what we're going to do is we're going to change the layout of this one that maybe already has stuff in it to looking like this one here that has the title. Now watch what I do here. I go back to number 5 here, right? And I go back over here to layout. And currently it's showing that it's the to content, right? So I'm going to go with the comparison. So I'm going to click on that one instead, and now it changes to that one. So now I've got them both being the same thing. Pretty cool. We've got other kinds of slides as well. I'm going to go back to the new slide. We have one called title only. So maybe what you want to do is have, I'll just bring it up here. I'll click on that one. So now that's our next one. This is where you can actually put a title, and then you can put something all of your own in here. Just maybe you want to insert a couple pictures in here, or just some sort of a hodgepodge of something, but it gives you the ability of keeping the consistency with having the title and so forth, but having whatever information you want to have here. And like I said, again, if you change your mind, it's, oh, you know what, I think I'd rather it be the title and content. I like that little bit more controlled situation. So while you're on slide number 7, we go back into layout and tell it we want to go back to title and content, and now that'll change. And it gives you this thing pops up all the time. Just get rid of it. All right, it gets to be a little bugging after a while. So anyway, so we've got that. Now another type of slide that we can do is one where it gives the content with a caption. All right, so that just gives you some text over on the side there. We got picture with caption, and just on and on. It just goes and goes. All right, so pretty cool stuff there overall. All right, but the things I just showed you just in this past few minutes, those are pretty much your more popular, types of uses there. The other one, though, I'll show you one more here, and then we'll move on here, is I can go back to the new slide and tell it that I want just a blank slide. So just boom, that's it. No title, no nothing. Whatever you decide to put there, it's up to you. Maybe you want to put a big picture of a beach. I don't know. Maybe that's the slide. When you hit it, you do an intermission. Everybody breaks up for about 10 or 15 minutes, walk around, whatever. So whatever you want to put in that's fine. And if you decide later on, you know what, I don't really need it, you can click onto it, hit the delete key, it's gone. That easy. Now what you're going to find as you're doing multiple presentations over the course of weeks and months and years or whatever, that there's a lot of slides that you can actually reuse in other presentations. So let me just show you how you can actually bring in a slide from a different presentation. I'm going to go ahead right now on one of my other screens here. I'm going to go ahead and open up a presentation here. So I'm going to bring this one up here real quick. And there we go here. All right. So there it is, okay? And just has it's a kind of a push pin type look here. Has to do with just the you know, some sort of like a business plan, okay? So we'll just pretend like these are slides that we actually use to present with. Now, what I like to do is take one of these slides and kind of bring it into my other presentation. So what I'm going to do here, now if you can imagine if you had like a split screen, or better yet, if you had, let's say, 2 or 3 different screens. I've got 4 here, but if you had a screen, you could actually take this and put this into the other, on the other screen. And what you'd do is you'd find the slide. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to grab, let's just say maybe this slide right here, and I want to put it between slides 2 and 3 over here. So I'm going to take this guy here, point to it. Now watch this. I'm just going to drag it like this over to here. And you can kind of see that little orange or red, whatever, bar to let you know where you're putting it. Now when I let go, boom, it copies it right in there. So the slide is still over here, but it's now been copied over here. And what's really neat is that it takes on the theme or the personality of what you have here. Okay, so that's pretty cool. So I go maybe down a little bit further, maybe take this one right here, drag it. Oh, gotta get onto it. So hold it down like that. You'll get the orange going around it. Drag over here, let go, and now I've put that one there. That's pretty cool. And then you can go back to this one here, and we'll just kind of, we can close it up or do whatever. So that's one way. Now, if you don't have a big enough screen or multiple screens like I have, we have another option that you can go with to do the same thing, and that is what we call reuse slides. So this is in the Home tab, and when you click on the reuse slides, a little panel will pop up over on the side here, okay? It will have in here the most recent presentations you have. So what you're seeing here, this is obviously the most recent one. That one was the one I just opened. And as you scroll down, there's another one, and on and on. All right. So what you can actually do is find the one that you want to work with. So let's just say I'm over here on this one, okay? And okay, so I want to take a slide from this particular presentation file. That's what this is right now. What I can do is I can just click on to choose slides, and what happens is this panel then opens up to display all the slides of that particular presentation. So let's say I want to take maybe this one right here, and I want to put that somewhere over here. So what I can do is, let's say I'm on number 6 over here. If I click right here where it says Insert Slide, it puts it right in there for me. Now, what happened though is it brought its personality with it and didn't want to like integrate with the theme of what we have for Berlin here. All right. Now that's fine. You can leave it that way, but it would look a little odd. You know, maybe you want it to look like that. That's fine. But if you don't want it to look like that, what you can do instead, or actually you can do in addition to this, is you go down to this little marker right here, this little tag. If you click onto it, one of the choices in here, this first one, says use the destinations theme. In other words, this is the destination here. So if we choose that one, then it changes to to this destinations theme, which is that Berlin theme, that Berlin template that we have here. Now, if I go back here and I hit my little back button, this guy right here, that'll take me back to listing now all of the presentations. Now, if there's a presentation that I want to dig around in, but it's not listed here, what I can do is I can click on to browse, just like that. And that will then take me to my little list here, and I can actually navigate to wherever that presentation file would be. So let's say I go in here and I go, okay, I'm thinking of maybe going with, let's see, this one right here, ACE, an online interview. Okay, so I'm going to click on, I'm going to open, just double click it really. That opens up over on the side here. There's only, in this case, when you look at it, we've got about maybe 4 slides in there. So we can actually take any of those slides. So basically, the only thing that's listed in this list is that particular presentation. So I can say, yeah, I think I like this one here. So what I'll do is I'll point to that one. Oop. And actually, I'll get down here a little bit further. Sorry about that. Down here where it says Insert Slide, I can click onto that. There it goes in, just like that. I can go a little bit further down. Maybe I want to go with this one here, bring that one in. That comes in after it. And again, you know, these are maybe a little bit different because they're not, I mean, the way they're set up, they're more like looking like a brochure than an actual slide. But you can still go in there, click on that little drop down and tell it to match with what the theme is. Now, of course, it's not even cooperating with that, and you're sitting there saying, well, this is a bad idea. See, part of the problem with these guys is that they're more portrait orientated, whereas the slides here are more more landscape. So I think maybe what we'll do is I'll go back. All right, I'm going to take this guy here, delete it. Take this guy here and delete that one. All right, just get rid of them. Go back over here, hit browse again, and I'll find something that's a little bit better in here. So we'll go with maybe the, here's one called maps. Okay, so I'll just open that one up. And there it goes. And now this one has a number of slides in there. So maybe I want to take this one here. And right now I'm on number 10. So I'll go ahead and hit insert, and that'll put it right after that. And there you go. Now that one, of course, again, still has its own theme, and you might say, well, I kind of like that. But then you say, well, I think I'd rather have it match with what I've got here. So I'll go back to here again, click onto that, and tell it boom. And that will then convert into what we have there. So I think that's a pretty good way of managing some of your slides. You know, save yourself some time by being able to bring over slides that you've already put together, maybe for other presentations, and then maybe you need to go in there and maybe tweak it a little bit and go from there. But when I'm all done doing all that, I can just kind of close this, this panel up, just like that, and there we go. Now, as you saw earlier, I was able to rearrange these panels or these slides simply by just kind of pointing to it here, holding it on the mouse and just kind of dragging it and just dropping it just like that. Very, very simple process. Now, when you end up with a lot of these, okay, it might be a little bit inconvenient, not impossible, but just inconvenient maybe to move this slide all the way to the bottom or something at the bottom all the way to the top. So what you can actually do is go into a different view called the slide sorter view, and that's down here at the bottom. See these little 4 little markers right there. You can either click onto that, or you can go up here to view and click on the slide sorter there. You do something like that, there you go, a little bit easier to see. And then what you can also do down here at the bottom to be able to see more slides up here is hit your minus zoom there, and that will actually kind of bring it out like that, make it a lot easier to work with. So now I can take maybe this slide here, drag it to here. I can take this one here, maybe put it over here, take this one here and put it at the end. That makes it very easy to kind of go back and forth. And then what's kind of convenient, instead of having to go back down here to go back to your normal view, you can actually just point to whatever slides you want to go now to specifically, and just double click that, and it takes you right back into the normal view. So pretty cool. Now, if you need to duplicate a slide, what you can do is click onto it, and on your keyboard, hit Control and the letter D, just like that, and you've got a duplicate. Because maybe what you want to do is maybe split the content that you had on the one slide amongst two slides to kind of break it up a little bit. So you do that, maybe delete, half of this one and delete the other half of this one here, and that way then you've got, you got your two slides. So that's pretty easy. And of course you saw how we go about deleting. We can just click onto it, hit the delete key. If there's a couple slides that you want to kind of work with, you can actually click the first one like this one here, hold down your Control key, click on this one here. Now you've got them both selected, hit the delete key, adios, they're gone. You want to bring them back, you can go up to the top here and hit undo, and it'll bring those two back for you, just like that. Now if you want to organize your slides a little bit better, what you can do is you can put these into their own little groups or sections, all right? So if you were to go, let's say, maybe to slide number 4 here, okay? And we can also do this in the slide sorter, but I'm just going to do it here because I think it'll make a little bit more sense seeing it here. And we're going to do, let's say, a right click on that. One of the choices that you're going to see in there is something called Add Section, all right? So if I click onto that, it puts a little section in there. It prompts you for a name. I'll just call this one, because this is now the first section, right? We're going to call this one maybe, or second section, we're going to call it, I'll just call it section 2 for lack of a better word there. Hit rename, and there's section 2. Now, if I want to go and change this one, I can just click onto that. Oop, I didn't do that. Right click it. I can hit then rename section, and I can call this one then instead. This will be, section 1 or something. You can tell I've got a vivid imagination here, right? So there's section 1, section 2, and maybe down here I'll make this one start with this one with section 3. So I'll right click that one, add section, there it goes, and there's my section 3. And there we go. All right. So now what you can do is if you point to one of the sections and double click it, the heading there, it rolls it up, rolls it up, rolls it up just by double clicking. The number, you can probably guess, are the number of slides that are within those sections. So I can do that. Now the other thing I can do with this though is I can actually take an entire section and rearrange it. So I can take section 2 here, drag it down like this, just like if there were slides, and now I've got it there. So I've rearranged a whole group of slides, see? So it might make it a little bit easier when you're doing larger, presentations. So you've got that, all right? Now if I go back and open these up, I'll just double click it, double click, and double click it. Or you can hit the little latch there on the side there. If I wanted to take this slide here and put it into this section, I can just take this here, drag it up like this, let go, and now it's in that section. I mean, just like anything else, pretty easy to do, almost like doing email. Now what you can also do is if I were to take, now we've got, I've kind of rearranged them here a little bit, but let's just say I were to take section 3, which is, the second group here. Now if I go to that one and I do a right click on it, one of the choices is remove section. Now if I choose remove section, as you can see from this one here, this is just going to get rid of the section, the group, and slides 5, 6, 7, and 8 are going to merge with the previous one. So if I just click on and remove section, there it goes. See, so now they're all kind of put together there. On the other hand, if I go to a section, I'll go to this last one here, do a right click on that one, I can just tell it I want to remove this section and slides. So I do that one, so the section and the slides are all gone. I mean, that's pretty straightforward. Okay, so that's about it. So hopefully that will give you some ideas with that. Oh, by the way, let me just say this too. If we were to go over to the slide sorter, you can actually see the sections right up there. So again, they're going to look just the same, just a little bit different layout there. But anyway, so hopefully this helps you. It kind of gives you an overall idea of what's going on, and again, with all these other videos we're going to be doing, we're going to get into every aspect of this program, but I kind of like to break it down like this, just to kind of get a sense of, okay, in a more of a macro way, you know, what do we do for overall slide management? There you go. Okay, so we've learned how to insert the slides, how to rearrange and manage them, how to put them into sections and so forth, how to bring in slides from other presentations and so forth. So pretty cool stuff there. So hopefully you enjoyed the video. Appreciate you watching. We'll see you in the next one. Take care.